Hi, listeners, and welcome to my Holland Update. I'm Marianne Manderfield, Public Information Coordinator for the city, and today our guest is Keith Van Beek, our city manager. Welcome, Keith.
Yeah, good morning, Marianne. Good to be here.
Good, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, let's get right into it. Today we're going to talk about commuting and transportation, but specifically between Holland and Grand Rapids. And there's a pilot program that's being developed, right? The West Michigan Express pilot program. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the West Michigan Express, I think it's a great program with a lot of great potential. Specifically, the city manager of Hudsonville, Patrick Waterman, a friend of mine, really has partnered with different organizations and has come up with the idea of what would happen if along the Chicago Drive corridor there was easy and really high-quality transportation options for people running down that corridor from Grand Rapids to Holland. So Patrick has put together a large group of interested stakeholders, employers, the cities that are along that corridor, the townships that are along that corridor, to really take a look at, okay, what could this look like and how can we get to maybe giving it a try?
And some of those organizations have gone out and done some research in terms of what do citizens want this? Do commuters use this? Would they use it? Excuse me. How many people are out there? And I think they put out a statistic of 27,000 commuters daily between Holland and Grand Rapids and in between. That's a huge number.
Yeah, so Marianne, the survey that was done took a look at of the 27,000 commuters from that corridor, Grand Rapids to Holland, there was about 18,000 that went towards Grand Rapids to work, and there was about 9,000 that came the other way into Holland.
Okay.
So the thought was, okay, those are good numbers that you could possibly build a system upon. And then what they did is they went out and they used locally here, Hope College, the Frost Center, and they asked employers to send this information out to employees. And what happened is we found that really spread like wildfire, and there were way more respondents to that survey than what they thought we were going to get. And there was just really positive responses to the possibility of this, which allowed the project to kind of take the next steps and really take a look at operationally, okay, how would we actually make this work?
Sure, because I think he said 74% positive responses to that survey, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're taking a look at 27,000 and let's say 75% positive, but maybe even if you only ended up having a ridership of maybe 40 or 50% of those numbers, now you're talking about you can put a business model together, at least for a pilot process. And so those are the next steps then that larger initiative West Michigan Express is pursuing right now.
So what would that look like? It's a bus system.
It's a bus system. So ideally, really the long-term dream that this group has is actually to have it on the rail system. But just the costs are prohibitive, particularly for a pilot project. So what they're looking at is having a very high quality, they're using the term over-the-road coach bus.
Okay.
So think a bus that has Wi-Fi, that has regularly cleaned and very nice bathrooms, right?
Sure, right.
That have very comfortable seating, that have areas where you can plug your computer in and do work, while you're heading to or heading back from work for the day. Bike racks, all the nice amenities to really encourage someone that says, hey, do I want to sit in a car, by myself driving back and forth between those areas, or do I want to just get on a bus and be able to work on the way to or from Holland, Grand Rapids, Hudsonville, or all places in between. Right.
You could get 2 hours of your day back.
Exactly.
If you're commuting 60 minutes, 45 minutes each way,
it adds up.
It does add up.
It adds up, and there's also, there's a huge financial factor where where some of the feedback from the survey was that there's a growing number of people that don't want to either, spend that much time in their car, but they don't want to spend that amount of money on a car either.
Right.
So they're really looking at this as being a reasonable alternative that they'd be willing to participate in.
And convenient. So it's more than one run a day. It would have multiple runs a day, correct?
Exactly. So the model that they're working on right now to figure out the business model, the operational model, is that they're thinking that it would serve 1,000 riders a day.
Okay.
And that it would need to be convenient. So they're looking at 15-minute peak times.
Okay.
So maybe like in the morning, right, from like a 6:30 to 8:30, there'd be a bus at all locations going through every 15 minutes. And then during non-peak times, there'd be buses every 30 minutes.
Okay.
So you don't have to totally plan your day around when
Right.
the bus is coming by, where, hey, if you miss the last one by a couple minutes, you don't have to wait that much longer before the next one comes during peak times.
And that's truly a transit program.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And they figure that the longest segment from one end to the other
Okay.
is less than an hour. It's about 50 minutes in their planning, let's say, to go all the way from Grand Rapids to Holland. And
Okay.
we would be the terminus, if you would,
Sure.
the end stop.
Sure. And then once a rider reaches Holland, would say deliver them or it would stop at the bus station. And then can they pick up the max from there or vice versa in Grand Rapids, pick up the rapid
The
from
rapid,
there?
you bet. Yeah, and actually, this is obviously a larger initiative, right?
Sure.
So the city is very interested and has passed a resolution of support
Okay.
for this. But in Holland, it just is seamless with our existing transportation network that happens to be right on the edge of downtown. So exactly right, Marianne. Riders would come into the Padnos bus station that I think most listeners probably are familiar with
Sure.
where that is on the east end of 8th Street, right downtown. And that happens to be also where our MAX operations are centered. So you would be able to get off, theoretically, the West Michigan Express and jump on a MAX bus and get, most commonly people refer to that as the last mile. How do you get from the major corridor
Right.
back to exactly where you need to go?
Right. And then the last component, or not the last component, but a very important component would be affordability. So I'm sure they're trying to make this so that a round trip ride is affordable.
Yeah, I've heard different numbers on that. I think they're in the $4, $5, $6
Okay.
range for a ride, which I think is pretty reasonable when you take a look at the cost of gas
Sure.
and a car and insurance and all the like. But one thing that's really important for listeners to know is that this is not looking to be a publicly funded system. So there isn't dollars that would be coming from the city of Holland for operations. There's no talk. There's not a plan at all that there would be a millage or anything that would This is intended to, with non-traditional funding sources, primarily from the private sector, maybe employers that know that they're having employees that are having a hard time getting back and forth to work would provide some level of subsidy for it. There's federal dollars available for programs such as this, and then the ridership themselves would cover, a large share of the cost.
Sure. Okay. And that's a huge component, though, for citizens to understand that it's not coming from taxpayer dollars.
Exactly. That's a good message to get out. And also that it's not just a City of Holland initiative,
Right,
right?
right.
It's a regional initiative that there's a lot of excitement out there. I've gotten more questions about this when they heard that council supported doing this. We have given 2 small investments right now just to do that first survey.
Okay.
And then to bring the final proposals so they can ask for some federal funding and get it off the ground. The target that they're looking at is, if all things go as planned, they feel that this could be up and operational already by the fall of 2020.
And that's around the corner.
That comes very quick.
That's in a year.
Yeah.
That would be very, very cool.
The plan would be then it would be a pilot, right?
Sure.
So There's not a long-term commitment here. A pilot, they're thinking 3, 4, 5 years.
Okay.
Where let's see how it works. Do we need to make alterations? Is it sized correctly? Do we need more buses? Or ideally, at some point, would we get to the point where we could take it off the buses and onto a rail system? And that would make it even faster and more convenient for riders.
And eliminate the traffic.
Exactly. Exactly.
But over all of this, it's one more component to attract talent to West Michigan.
We hear over and over and over again that, talent wants great spaces. They want to live in vibrant environments, and that transportation is really a key part of that. So we're lucky in Holland where with that bus station being right downtown, this would just be a great amenity that would make it more convenient for people that live in the larger region to get in and out of downtown Holland very easily. But on the same note, you could get from downtown Holland to Hudsonville or Granville or Grand Rapids quite easily and just not have to worry about parking and driving and all the other hassles that go along with it.
Sure. And it could be, they're looking at other than just commuting too. Perhaps you want to get into Grand Rapids for an event or for a game. So it's more than just Monday through Friday during the typical work day.
Exactly. I think right now they're building the model on the business. So the employee-employer relationship, because I think there's a feeling, probably rightly so, that there has to be enough of a market for that.
Right.
But I think a side effect absolutely will be you'd see on, weeknights, weekends. I think you'd absolutely see other people making use of this service.
Well, this is really exciting. Is there somewhere that the public can kind of keep in touch or stay up to date?
So I would encourage listeners to just do the old-fashioned Google West Michigan Express Initiative.
Okay.
There's really been great coverage by the business news, by MLive, by the Holland Sentinel, by other entities, because this group has gone out and really tried to advertise and get support from a lot of the local municipalities. And so far, so good. The City of Holland was the first one that signed on with a resolution.
Nice.
And we expect others to follow.
Okay.
And so I think there's been a good amount of media, both paper and TV coverage on this. So it's a great place to get more information.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Keith. Is there anything else you want to touch on real quick?
No, we're just excited about this project. It's certainly something that just adds to the fabric of the City of Holland.
Making it a great place to live, work, and play.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Marianne.
Until next time, this is My Holland Update.